Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Sympathy, written by the Dark Void 79. The rebellion of the Three Stars had caught the Empire by surprise. Within days of each other, three of the Empire's most important industrial, technological, and agricultural systems took up arms in rebellion and declared their independence. The roots behind this rebellion are still debated today, but it is largely agreed upon by many historians that the economic and political instability caused by the then recent war with the Agro Confederacy played a crucial role. Concerned at the economic effects of the lost star systems and fearful that others might follow their example, the Emperor wasted no time mobilizing the Imperial Armed Forces and ordering them to mount an operation to return the systems under the Empire's control. Despite being a new graduate from the Imperial Army Academy, I had the honor of being assigned to the expedition tasked with returning the star system of Impierno back to the Imperial control. It was rare for a new officer to be sent to frontline services so suddenly, since standard practice often had fresh officers sent to quiet garrison units in order for them to peacefully familiarize themselves with their roles. However, during that time of crisis, there was little to spare, and because of that, I was quickly assigned to a newly raised infantry legion that was to be part of the 7th Expeditionary Force. Having just fought a long war against the Agro Confederacy, many of the Empire's armies were depleted, while those that were left were assigned to guard the frontier with the Confederacy. Because of this, the bulk of the 7th Expeditionary Force was composed of recently mobilized legions, filled with conscripted Imperial citizens, and commanded by young, inexperienced junior officers, as well as old senior officers who have been recalled to service. All in all, there were around 20 new legions in the expedition, which was joined by a single veteran legion. However, even with 20 new legions, many of those in higher command believed that the expedition still had insufficient numbers to quell a rebellious star system, especially one that was highly industrialized and largely populated as Impierno. Because of this, the Imperial Army, with blessing of the Emperor, augmented the expedition with paid mercenaries, coming from all over the galaxy in order to get valuable Imperial credit. Aliens of different kinds formed various cohorts who swore service to the Empire. A total of 32 cohorts would eventually be formed. 5 made out of Isdas, 7 out of Ivon, 10 out of Boondocks, and another 10 out of humans. Out of all of these races who served as our mercenaries, none would hold a greater reputation than the humans. Despite being a young race, humans were well known and feared because of their fierce and terrifying ability to wage war. Lacking body strength or superior technology, the humans made up for these disadvantages by having stubborn determination and frightening ability to quickly adapt. Because of these skills, they somehow managed to perfect warfare, as they were able to use all of their advantages effectively against their enemies' disadvantages. Somehow, always winning against more powerful enemies, they were soon known as one of the galaxy's fearsome warriors. Their presence in our expedition thus helped boost morale for many of the Imperial soldiers, since many of us believed that the war could not possibly last long if we had them on our side. At first, things seemed to be going according to plan. Despite taking heavy losses in the space battle in orbit of Impierno 4, the Imperial Navy still managed to annihilate the Rebel Space Squadron, allowing us ground forces to land and establish bases of operation on the planet's surface. From these bases, we then began making thrusts towards the major cities. Deployed to the central plains of Impierno 4, our army group was tasked with capturing one of the major industrial cities of the planet. I am proud to say that my legion fought bravely in the operation to capture the city, but I do admit that 4 human mercenary cohorts attached to us did most of the fighting, striking harder than any other force present there. The humans managed to break through the strong rebel defenses, thus allowing our reserves to exploit the breach and collapse the rebel line. Commending their fighting and wanting to award their achievement, the commander of our army group decided to honor the 4 human cohorts by giving them a place of honor in the blood payment. As tradition and law dictates and requires, any piece of imperial territory that rebels against the Empire must pay in blood. Each settlement, village, town, and city of a rebel planet must offer 30% of their population to death the moment they return under imperial control. Such practices are meant to scare the population and instill fear in their mind so that they would never rebel again. It was basic psychological warfare, and every soldier knew it. Being our most fearsome mercenaries, our armor group commander offered the humans the honor of conducting the execution. Only the hardest fighting soldiers were given this position, and many were envious that the humans managed to be awarded it before any other Imperial Army unit. Some even grumbled that alien mercenaries like the humans shouldn't be given such an honor. As an officer, I realized what the commander was trying to do. By giving the honorable position to the humans, he would not only be awarding his best mercenaries, but he would also be instilling an image of the humans being terrifying warriors who the rebels should fear. Nothing would instill more fear than the image of humans performing the execution of the blood payment. Yes, I believe that was what the commander wanted to achieve. However, it seemed like the humans did not want to play the image the commander wanted them to have. They seemed appalled and angry that we even suggested such an act. Instead of accepting the place of honor, the humans just stood there where they were, refusing to move or obey our orders. Because of that, the honor was instead given to another unit, while the humans watched the blood payment occur from the sidelines. Over the next few weeks, the army group was surprised to learn that the 4 human cohorts with us were slowly deteriorating. However, instead of attrition through combat loss, the main reason for their diminishing state was because of desertion. Soon enough, we will get reports that the other 6 human cohorts were also suffering from large numbers of desertions. As it was said that they reacted with the same anger our human cohorts gave towards the blood payment. At first, I never really understood why they reacted like this. Why would humans, creatures who have fought the toughest battles and endured the most appalling horrors of war, be so disgusted over a simple penalty imposed upon rebellious subjects of the Empire? Surely they have laws too. Surely they realize that penalties were meant to prevent future crimes against the state and society. As the weeks went on, and the human cohorts continued to suffer from desertion, the overall commander of the expedition was forced to merge the remaining cohorts into 3 units. Around the same time this occurred, various fronts began reporting sightings of human mercenaries in the service of the rebels. This confused us. Where did the rebels get human mercenaries, especially now when we had the whole planet blockaded? Had the rebels been hiding these mercenaries and were just waiting for the right time to use them? Then the realization soon dawned on us. As we finally concluded that these humans fighting for the rebels had been the humans who were once in our service. We felt betrayed and angered, and I remember thinking that the humans had no sense of loyalty. Speculation and rumors began running around, as many believed that the humans' love for greed had drawn them away from us and into the rebel army. Large sums of money and offerings of land were probably the main cause of their defection. At least, that's what we liked to believe at the time. Calling themselves the Wood-Told Pilecki Brigade, we would later learn that they acted as an elite infantry shock force for the rebels. With their tenacity in battle, they proved to be a foe that was difficult to defeat. Time and time again, they would steal victory from us, as they counterattacked against any assault we made. The skill and ability of the humans were now against us, and it seemed like they were now fighting with a fury more powerful than they had shown before. Not even the few remaining human cohorts under our command could counter them, as these last loyal mercenaries soon dwindled until only a century worth of humans were left under our service. Many officers believed that the war would have ended sooner had it not been for the humans on the rebel side. They provided not only strength of arms, but also a powerful morale boost that further encouraged the rebels to continue the fight. However, with each battle they fought, they took on losses. Without any way to recruit more humans to their cause, each loss was permanent. Slowly, their numbers began to thin down. They started off with 2,000 humans, but were soon reduced to 1,800 after their reckless yet brave charge to plug the rebel gap at Beto Pass. 3 months later, it was reported that there were only 1,300 of them left after the brigade was deployed at the city of Aguila, where the urban and attritional warfare must have taken a heavy toll. And yet, they had successfully secured the city for the rebels. 5 months later, during the final battle of the war, it was reported that around 500 humans were still battle-ready for the defense of Ulap Mountain, the last stronghold of the rebels. It was during this battle that I got to talk with one of the turncoat humans. He had been injured in the leg and was unable to withdraw with his squad when my sentry captured their trenches. This was a rare situation, since these humans on the rebel side are rarely caught alive. Knowing that they had broken their contract with the Empire and would be punished to death, these humans often fought until they died. They would rather die in the glory of battle than in the shame of being electrocuted to death, the common punishment for turncoats. The human we captured, however, could not afford such glory. With their troops already running out of ammunition, he was unable to resist us as we arrested him. Curious in regards to their motivation, and having wondered for months what had enticed them to fight for the rebels, I decided to visit the human at the field hospital. Tied to the medical bed he was on, he would remain there until well enough to undergo trial, which we all knew would lead to execution. Despite knowing the fate that awaited him, the human still wore a determined look on his face, as I felt that he seemed to be planning his escape, even if it was near impossible due to his injured condition. He was, however, kind enough to spare some time to talk with me and seemed amused at my question on why he fought for the rebels. "Isn't it obvious?" he said in a badly accented attempt to speak Imperial voice. "What is obvious?" I asked, unsure what he meant. "That you're the bad guys," he replied. "We didn't want to fight for the bad guys." "How are we the bad guys?" I inquired. "We are merely trying to restore order to a rebellious planet." "Oh, is that what massacring innocent civilians is called?" he retorted before shaking his head. "No, we couldn't fight for an empire after we learned that you considered that as fair punishment. We couldn't keep on fighting for you after seeing so many poor and unarmed civilians mercilessly killed." This piqued my interest as I studied the human. The emotions he was giving during that moment confused me. "You didn't like that we killed our own citizens, members of our own race?" "No." "But why? It's not your race that we killed. It was ours. Why would humans care for the death of an alien race?" "Because it's not right," he said firmly, "regardless of who you are. Human, Imperial, Ivan or Bundak, you shouldn't just be killed helplessly in some kind of systemic genocide." What he was saying was a new concept to me, and I didn't really understand it at first. The human, or all humans, seemed to have an appreciation for life, regardless of race. Such a thing was unheard of to the Empire or other races. Most races generally only cared for themselves and would never pay much attention to what would happen to the other, as long as it did not involve them. Humans, however, seemed to have a different concept. "Why would you care for another race of not your own?" I eventually asked. "We humans call it sympathy." "Sympathy?" "Yes. It's when you feel sorry for the misfortunes of others, whether they are the same race as you or not. Sympathy would make you understand their situation and push you to help them. We humans have a long history of bringing terror and destruction to other people and creatures, and along with that urge to bring destruction came the urge to undo the pain and suffering." I stared at him for a while, as I thought how stupid such a concept was. To help others who would bring no value to you seemed like a waste of time and resources. I left that human, knowing the reason for what drove them, but not understanding why they would be so stupid to follow it. 3 days later, we assaulted a fortification held by the last few hundred humans of the Witold Pilecki Brigade. After its capture, I found myself standing over an unarmed and injured human, who begged to be quickly killed now rather than suffer a terrible and slow death by electrocution. As I stared and listened, I finally understood what sympathy was, as I took my sidearm and shot him in the head. End of story. I would just like to thank the T5 supporters: Bushmaster 117, Caspar Arnholtz, Draxzoon WRE, Elijah Silvercross, Gray, John Carrington, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.